Welcome to the Solopreneur Success Podcast, where successful business owners gather to share true stories and sound advice to help you start and grow your own solopreneur business. Come soar with us and design the life you love. Now, here's your host, Steve Coombes.
Hey, solopreneurs. It's Steve Coombes back from a 3-month podcast vacation. Not really, but it's been 3 months since we published an episode, so what's been going on? Well, quite a bit actually, as it turns out. Our family has enjoyed a new granddaughter being born down in Texas, so we've been traveling. I've been putting off a lot of editing on some great podcast episodes, and I've been focused on client projects rather than my own work. And I have a new plan. One that I'm going to talk about in this episode about what I'm doing to ensure my personal priority projects, like this podcast, won't get neglected again. And I'm sure you probably have those important personal priority projects that get stuck on the back burner, and that really stinks, doesn't it? Because those are your priorities, or so we say, and yet we don't make time for them. So I've decided to take my own advice again. I'm right now testing some virtual assistants to help with the time-consuming task of audio editing this podcast. And if you've never used a virtual assistant before, be sure to listen to episode 1 with Lorianne Vaughn Speaks for more about working with VAs. And many VAs, they work independently, or you can find them on resources like Fiverr.com. As a matter of fact, audio editing people I'm testing right now can be found over there on Fiverr.com. Now, here's the good news. I have over 3 months of fantastic interviews already recorded, ready to go. They just need to be edited and made live. And I have a lot of work going on behind the scenes right now to bring this to you, as well as a new website that I'll be mentioning shortly. And this Friday will kick off, finally, long promised and terrific interview with Dr. Corinne Weaver, which was recorded way back in the summer, I believe it was. And she talks about in that interview how she has leveraged books to grow her chiropractic business from small potatoes to media coverage all around the nation. It's a fantastic episode. It's going to be released this Friday. And every Friday going forward, we'll have interviews just as promised. And earlier, I mentioned, taking this podcast on a 3-month vacation kind of jokingly. It wasn't really planned, obviously. It's just one of those things where life got in the way of the podcast, and I'm making sure that's not going to happen again. But one of my upcoming guest interviews is with the New Zealand cartoonist and marketer, Sean D'Souza. Now, Sean shares a wealth of knowledge in my interview with him, including his annual 3-month vacation philosophy, which I love, and I think you're going to love that as well. So make sure you get subscribed so you can hear that. Just a few of the other guests that are coming up that I've already recorded interviews with. One's going to be with the world-famous copywriter and author Bob Bly. He has a terrific book called The Copywriter's Handbook, but he's actually just published his 100th book. And Bob's going to supply his thoughts on writing and publishing as a business. And if you ever wanted to write, especially write books, you're going to appreciate his insights after writing the author of 100 different books, not counting his client work writing sales and marketing copy, for example. Another interview is going to be with affiliate marketing guru, John Cristani. Now, if you've never heard of John, this is a guy who got fired. I think he was like 28 years old. He gets fired, and he turns around and builds a $500,000 a month business while traveling the world. He was featured in Forbes magazine, and he shares some of his secrets right here on Solopreneur Success, so you can do the same kind of thing. You're going to learn a lot from him. Another big interview I'm looking forward to sharing with you is with customer experience strategist Jill Raff. Now, Jill grew up in a surprising family business. She worked in one of the very first McDonald's. Her parents owned that. And it was back in the days when McDonald's was actually known for customer service and doesn't have the bad rap it sometimes gets today. It was actually very customer focused in the early days. And she shares how she's parlayed her life experience into helping companies of all sizes provide the world-class customer experiences which give them a strategic advantage in the marketplace. And this is an easy win for solopreneurs to compete against global corporations because they're slow, they're fat, you're lean and nimble, and you can move fast, and you can satisfy a customer's demands without going through a chain of bureaucracy to take care of matters that ought to be taken care of really quickly for your customer and making sure that they're taken care of. And you're going to love that interview. Here's another one. This solo episode today. I'm recording this solo episode after 3 months of interviews already been recorded, but here's the thing. I want to talk to you directly. I want to be the person that you can hear in your ears saying, this is real life experience on a week in and week out basis. What am I doing that's working? What challenges am I facing in my solopreneur business? What have I learned or picked up or strategies or tips or tricks or whatever it is that can help you? And I'm going to do that every single week. So in addition to the every Friday an interview on Solopreneur Success, starting today, I'm looking forward to sharing with you my personal thoughts of the week, something that's going to help you. And today, right now, I have something really exciting to share with you, something I actually shared on LinkedIn last week. Now, one of my clients has been a long-term client of mine for, I think it's been over a decade. It's been like 12 years now, one of my first big writing clients, and I still write for them every single month. And he shared with me and the team at that company this great article that he ran across about a daily wins checklist. That's kind of what I want to share with you today, is how I'm using this new daily wins checklist. It's not brand new. I've long believed in the importance of checklists, especially after reading Atul Gawande's Checklist Manifesto. Great book. If you haven't read it, get it, read it, implement it. But like I said, this last week, I learned about this daily wins checklist, and I'll put a link to that article. It's by fellow success coach and writer Patrick Buggy of mindfulambition.com. I'll put that in the show notes. But one thing I feel Patrick really got right here, and I believe it's crucial to the success of his checklist format, the format that I've actually taken advantage of and I'm using right now, is his checklist focus on completing specific actions based on your values and priorities, not the outcomes. And that's the key difference here. It's based on the actions, which are the steps that you can take yourself, not to count the outcomes. How is that different? Let's say you want to get 5 new clients every single week. Instead of a checklist that you'd mark for each new client, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Instead, why not have a daily checklist item of, I'm going to make 10 new offers each day. And let's say you have, 1 new client on average per 10 offers. You're going to average out. Law of averages will say you're going to get those 5 clients a week if you're making 10 offers a week and you're averaging 1 new client for every 10 offers. But here's the thing. You can't control what other people do. You can't force them to buy your product or service. But what you can control are your actions. And in this case, that would be making the offer, right? So the law of averages will help you ensure you still get the results you want while focusing your wins around your behaviors, not the behaviors of others that you have no control over. And in the article, Patrick shares 3 different checklist formats around this daily wins checklist idea that he has, and I really like this. 3 of them. One is called the extreme focus format, where you track consistency across a month for a single action. There's a well-rounded checklist, which has several actions that are tracked daily across a week. And then there's an all-inclusive checklist, has like a whole full page of habits to keep track of. And I shared this article on LinkedIn. One of my coaching students, Balaka, mentioned in a comment about that how she likes the shorter format, and I agree. I created my own daily wins checklist based on that shorter multiple action format, the well-rounded checklist, with specific checklist actions around a few key personal and work goals that are my priorities. And you can see a photo of that current checklist. I'll take a photo later today. I'll put it up in the show notes. And you'll find the show notes page for this episode at startgrowsoar, that's SOAR.com/012. And by the way, speaking of comments on LinkedIn, if you're not connected to me on LinkedIn, send me a connection request. You can find a link to my LinkedIn profile in the show notes too. I'll make sure I put that in there. Now, if you take a look at the checklist I'll be taking a picture of my daily wins checklist, you'll find I only have 5 daily checklist items and 2 weekly habits that are listed on my personal daily wins checklist. Now, you or even my current clients who listen to this podcast might wonder, well, why didn't you list anything directly related to client-focused writing work? You won't find that on my checklist. There's a simple answer for that as to why. Those are already established habits that I'm already keeping up with right now. My purpose for the checklist is to help me improve in a handful of designated focus areas, not track every single aspect of my work or personal life. And I would encourage you to maybe give this a try in this way, to say, what are your true priorities? What are your values? What are you trying to achieve that maybe you're struggling with a little bit? Like in my case, getting this podcast out on time every single week. And I'm going to talk about that again here in a moment. But here's the thing. What is the challenge you're facing? what are the daily action items that you could take, that you have control over, that if you took those action items on a consistent daily basis, you would have a much higher likelihood of achieving the outcomes you wish. If you take those values, those priorities, and put them on your checklist, you will find very quickly that that's going to increase your odds of the success you wish to have. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about what I included on my daily wins checklist. You may like them, you may not, but it may give you at least an idea of the types of checklist actions you can put on your own. And again, I created just 5. What I put in there is I have a daily action for each of 3 personal priority areas I wish to improve in. One's spiritual, one's physical, and one is around relationships. And then I have a couple around professional as well. Now, the 3 around my personal checklist items, the first one is morning devotions. This is an action item that helps ensure that I start my day spiritually right by spending time in Bible reading and prayer early in the day rather than later in the evening, as I'm sometimes prone to do. I find when I read the Bible early and I spend time focused on my spiritual life, this is for me personally, and this is an area that I find I need to improve upon, which is keeping first things first. And so right now I'm following a plan to read through the Bible in a year in chronological order, which is a fun change from most of the read through the Bible in a year plans I've seen out there. And I'll link to that plan in the show notes. If you want to try reading through the Bible in a year in a chronological order, you might like this plan. The next action item on my list is walk/exercise. And I want to improve my physical condition by ensuring that I get some kind of exercise in some way every single day. And it might be a long walk, and that's why walk/exercise, because walking's easy. I can listen to a podcast. Yes, I am an avid podcast listener. I listen to a lot of audiobooks as well. And I encourage you to take advantage of exercise time to maybe not just listen to music, but maybe you can improve your ideas around business by listening to a great business book or a business podcast. That's a great opportunity to do it. Take a walk, or maybe take a walk in silence and just allow your thoughts to kind of generate ideas. That's also a very important way to take advantage of your walking time or exercise time, is to give your mind kind of some quiet background time to process all the inputs you get all week long or even all day long, and just make something out of that you can say, I can apply this in this way to my business. Now, exercise for me, like I said, it could be a long walk. Might be working out at the gym. Already this week, it's included helping my son shovel the first snow of the season off our driveway last night. Shoveling several inches of snow is certainly a workout. So there you go. Third personal priority action item on my checklist is encouraging words. This is a way for me to aid my personal relationships with others. If you're like anybody else, I'm sure you know that everyone appreciates a sincere compliment or words of encouragement. And this action item for me is to help me toward my goal of being the kind of person who regularly looks for opportunities to encourage others. And so those are the 3 personal area daily checklist items that I have for me. And then I have 2 action items under professional. And these are the areas that are priority in my business that I want to improve upon. Yes, like I mentioned earlier, I still have my client writing work, but I'm actually spending some time to make sure that I also focus on those bigger long-term goals, and that's where these 2 fall. The first one is 30 minutes a day of business reading, at least business days. You'll find on my checklist photo, I have kind of like dashes through Saturdays and Sundays. This is a Monday to Friday activity for me, business day activity for these 2. 30 minutes of business reading. The second is 30 minutes of coaching writing. I already spend a significant chunk of my day writing copy for clients. The tasks here are to ensure that I spend a minimal amount of time every day reading to grow professionally and writing to my coaching business segment, which means it can be anything from copy for my new upcoming coaching website. That's going to be solopreneurcoach.com. I have the domain. You won't find anything on it yet, so no rush to jump over there. I'll let you know when that's live on this podcast. But this podcast will be hosted there in the next year, coming up next year. Writing show notes for this podcast could be a way that I take advantage of that coaching writing time. Writing articles for blogs, LinkedIn, some other platform, maybe a guest blog post or a magazine or medium.com or what have you. If it's something to promote the coaching and teaching aspect of my business rather than the client copy work, that would be something that would fall under the coaching writing part. Writing my new book, Start. That is going to be coming out, but if I want it to come out, I need to invest time into writing. So that's what that's for. What do you need to write? What do you need to work on? What do you need to set as a priority? There has to be something there that you have in your mind right now as you're listening to this podcast that if you started doing it on a daily, consistent basis, it would greatly magnify the results you're seeing. What is that action item? Put it on your checklist. Now, below the daily items on my checklist, I also have 2 weekly habits, and these have little check boxes too. Both of them are related to this podcast because this is something that I know I need to be consistent on, and therefore, even though it's not a daily action item, it is a weekly habit that I need to invest time in and make sure they are accomplished. One is publish solo podcast. I'll be checking the box next to that one before I take that photo. And that's because I'm recording this right now. I will be editing this today, snapping that photograph and put it up to be on live tomorrow. The second one is publish interview podcast. That would be for the weekly interview, like this week's Friday interview that's coming out with Dr. Corinne Weaver. I'm looking forward to putting a green check box on that. That's going to be available for you to look at on the show notes. But here's my challenge to you today. You have these goals, these reasons you're listening to something like Solopreneur Success. But if you never take action to accomplish your goals, if you just kind of let life get in the way, kind of like I have for the last 3 months of this podcast, for example, what is it that you're not doing that if you would make a consistent daily action, what would change? What kind of results would you see? Let me encourage you, take a look at that daily wins checklist. See if that might be something that would be attractive to you in helping you achieve your goals. I think it could be a great fit for many people who are solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, or maybe you're not even a solopreneur or an entrepreneur. Maybe you simply want to be a better father or mother, a better spouse, a better friend, a better employee. Whatever it is in your life you're looking to accomplish, it doesn't have to be just relationships based, although I believe life is based around relationships. But whatever it is you want to improve upon in your life, a checklist that's focused around your values and your priorities that involves consistently taking action in areas that you have control over, that's going to help you achieve those. So take a look at that daily wins checklist. Again, you'll find those on a show notes page. That's at startgrowsoar.com/012. And don't forget to click subscribe on this podcast so you will automatically get the interview with Dr. Corinne when it comes out on Friday. Look forward to sharing that with you. All right, that's it for today's solo podcast episode. I look forward to talking with you again on Friday. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Solopreneur Success Podcast. We hope you discovered valuable advice on how to start and grow your own successful solopreneur business. Come soar with us by joining our community at startgrowsoar.com. Again, that's startgrowsoar.com. We look forward to seeing you there.